Hello and welcome to the channel. My upload schedule has been a bit not great as of late. I've been battling art block, a minor existential crisis, and I'd previously been coughing for 3 weeks straight after getting a viral infection. Yay! But I'm back with a new video. Well, this was supposed to be a single video, but I kind of realized cutting it into parts would make things a lot easier. So this is part 1 of like 3 videos if everything goes well. Tevat, as we know it, has 7 nations, each governed by an Archon representing an element and philosophy. I decided, sort of on a whim, to quote-unquote redesign Genshin's Archons by swapping their elements. Right now, we only have 6 out of the 7 Archons released, so sadly that Tsaritsa will not be participating. The idea here is to swap not only the element, but also the philosophy associated with it. For example, the Pyro Archon is also the Archon of War, so that will affect the design of the swap. It'll probably make more sense once we get into it. We're going by order of appearance in game, so you already know who's going first. Mondstadt is the nation of Animo and freedom, with Barbatos as its deity. Its people are religious and devoted despite their god not having been seen in quite a while. Well, that's what most think. In reality, he's been moonlighting as a bard and going by the name Venti. With freedom being such an integral part of Venti's character, I wasn't super sure which element to give him at first, but while thinking of Mond's more religious side, I did realize that I could lean a little more into it to choose a new element. With that in mind, I decided on Hydro, with Mond becoming the nation of justice, although in this instance it would be divine justice. With his new element, I thought it would make more sense for him to be active as a god. I didn't want him to be a tyrant though, which would be very easy to do with the whole divine justice thing going on. So the church would also uphold the truth and integrity of said justice, trying its best to keep things fair, with Venti basically being the judge, I guess? Honestly, I kind of did not think super in depth about this whole concept. With that whole idea in mind, I set off to gather a bunch of references and brainstorm a few ideas. With his new role as the God of Justice, and since I wanted him to be active in Mond as Barbatos, the first thing I wanted to do was bring back the hood he's depicted in his more divine form. I wasn't super sure where to go with the outfit though, so he went through a few wildly different iterations, some where he was more covered than others. In the end, I sort of mashed all of them together into this design. You'll notice it's pretty close to his current design. That was an accident. I did not mean for it to look so close to his Venti design, but it was also the first design that actually felt like it worked for me, so it shall be the final design. Because I decided that I wanted to make things way harder for myself, rather than the usual character render I do in these videos, I decided I was going to work on an illustration in the style of Genshin's in-game card game, Genius Invocation TCG. Truly, the idea of all time. So, I got to work thumbnailing. It was actually fairly quick. At first I wanted his pose to mirror his original card, but I ended up changing it to something a little different while still sort of referencing it. I wanted to focus on both the religious aspect and the theme of justice, so I decided he'd be in front of a stained glass window inside a church while holding a scale. I used a few in-game references for this. This shot of the nameless bard to use as inspiration for the halo, the card Fresh Wind of Freedom from the Genius Invocation TCG, and Justice from the Lunar Arcanium, mostly for the scale, honestly. Once I was happy with the look and colors, I moved to the illustration. I made sure to start with a clean sketch so I was sure everything looked nice and tidy, starting of course with Venti. I moved to the background using the Hierophant from the Lunar Arcanium as reference for the stained glass window. I only found it after I started working on the illustration, but boy was I glad I did. It really helped a ton since that was basically exactly what I was going for. The line art was fairly straightforward. I heavily referenced Venti's card to imitate the line weights, but I'm not sure I quite managed it. I still had a lot of fun trying. Once Venti was done, I very quickly moved to the scale and the background, which took no time at all. For the base colors, I stayed pretty close to the thumbnail. The background colors were very straightforward as well, but what took longer than expected was the water face. I don't know why, especially since I had a reference, but yeah. After that, I added the shadows, which is where I think I moved too far away from the TCG card style, since they're rather flat in terms of rendering, but I really liked how it looked. I added some highlights and effects, and used a charcoal brush here and there to imitate the look of the cards. And here's the final illustration. Honestly, it took me way longer than expected to finish. I feel like there are a few things that I could have done better for the composition, namely the placement of the scale, but I'm very proud of this one. Our next design is Liwei's Geo-Archon, Morax, God of Contracts, recently retired and living a new life as Zhongli, consulted for the Wangsheng funeral parlor. For Zhongli, I will admit, I immediately chose Dendro to make him the God of Wisdom. It just made too much sense given his canon personality, although that didn't really make it easier for me. Like, sure, I wanted him to be the God of Wisdom, but I still needed to figure out what exactly that meant in terms of design. At first, just like with Venti, I thought he'd be a full-time Archon again, but I ended up deciding that him having a secret human life still worked quite well. With the way human knowledge evolves, it would make sense for him to want to mingle with his people to stay in the loop, so to speak. Not sure he'd still work as a funeral consultant, but definitely as some sort of expert on anything Adepti related. Honestly, considering canonically he gets asked to consult on things unrelated to funerals or the Adepti, it probably wouldn't be that different here. For his design, I did start with the idea of him being a full-time god. I really wanted to use his older outfit as reference because it looks so good and just dendrify it, but it looked so bad. So I just moved to giving him a handful. It made a little more sense, and once I decided to keep his whole living as immortal thing, it still worked pretty well. Canon Zhongli has a more modern looking outfit, but for this version of him, I sorta wanted to lean into the ancient being vibe he has going on. I did really struggle with the colors, even after deciding he'd be mostly green and gold. And after a bit of fiddling, I finally managed to finalize his design. I decided to keep one of his sleeves off his shoulder to make him look a little more laid back. Once I decided on the design, it was time to thumbnail the illustration. I wanted him to hold a long scroll, because I guess that's what wise men do. Don't ask me questions. I ended up very vaguely using his original TCG card as reference, and decided to draw him outdoors. It probably would have made more sense to draw him inside, but you know what? We're not here to draw things that make sense, we're here for style. I did really like the halo I gave Venti in his illustration, so I wanted to do something similar with the sun. I did also use the Jade Chamber TCG card as reference for how I wanted the sky to look, which also gave me the idea of adding ginkgo leaves flying about. For the vegetation, I ended up referencing a bunch of 2D assets from previous events set in Liwei, mostly from the poetry one with Venti and Hutao. Don't ask me what it's called, I don't want to look it up. With the thumbnail decided on, I moved to the final illustration. Just like with Venti, I started with a clean sketch, trying to follow my references as close as possible. For this one, I really wanted to stick a little closer to the TCG card art style. I still don't think I quite managed to get the line weight correct for the line art, but again, I tried, and that's what matters. I did decide to draw the line art for the background and foreground elements with colors to make things a little easier on my end. For the colors, I basically color picked from my thumbnail. I did change a few things, but all around the colors are basically the same. For the patterns, since I hadn't actually settled on final designs, I had to wing it. I will definitely not be doing that for future designs. I will actually decide on the look of the patterns in the sketch phase because I really think I could have done better here. Once Zhongli was colored, I moved to the background, adding effects with my charcoal brush, and finally added colors to the line art. I did add a few more effects, including some after I was done, because some part felt a little empty, but they're not in the speed paint, so it'll be a little surprise. And here's the Venti and Zhongli. The added effects were mostly around the scroll to make things a little more interesting. I am pretty happy with how it turned out. I feel like I really did manage to make this one look like a TCG card compared to the last one. And there we go. Our two first Archons with their new elements. I really want to know what you guys think of these designs. Do they work? Was I able to communicate my ideas with them? What about the whole TCG illustration thing? I did really have fun working on these, but I want to know if you guys like them. Do you prefer the slightly extra rendering I did for Venti's, or should I keep closer to the original look like in Zhongli's? Your feedback will help with future illustrations. For the next video, we're going back to an old series that has been on hiatus for a while. Ooh, I wonder which one. Anyway, as always, subscribe if you'd like to see more. Like the video if you liked the video, and mobile users, don't hesitate to hype this video up. Wink. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.